Oh, Matthew Q. Coyne.
Am I being recorded now?
Yes.
Is this where you ask me questions, and is this where you
Yes.
interview me?
Because the short film is about your uncle.
Right.
And we are trying to hear the stories that you know some of them, and most of them.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
What stories do we want to tell?
Now, I want to ask, what are your idea? What is the relation between you and, say, Bob?
Well, I guess I would say, is it okay to say on camera? I think my mom and Uncle Bob are. Is it? I think very well. I don't know, closest of the siblings, but certainly very close. So that means that we spent a lot of holidays in Greenwich, and I remember spending a lot of summers in Greenwich, and I remember how excited and happy I was driving up I-95 and across the GW Bridge and onto the on the 95 North, going to Greenwich and getting off at, was it exit 3? Was it the Cos Cob? Yeah. And how happy I was when we would arrive at 55 Boat Road. I remember Thanksgivings, I remember Christmases, I remember summers. I remember Uncle John's 50th birthday party.
Yeah, 50 at 50.
At 50, yes. Yeah, and we have those pictures. I remember them coming to D.C. and spending a lot of time with Monica and Belle and Joe, making mischief. And yeah, I mean, I think that of all my cousins, my uncle, we spent the most time with Uncle Bob and Isabel and those kids. So that's what I remember. I remember a lot of happy memories. I have a lot of happy memories of your mom and dad when they would come to Greenwich. I remember I may have even played tennis with your dad once or twice when I was young, and I remember what a gentleman he was, and how lovely your mom was. But I remember how lovely your mom was. With her limited English, right? And she would say, "Oh, Matthew," and she would pinch my cheek. I remember that. I remember how much I cared for your mom and dad, and what good people they were, and how much joy they brought when we were around them. What else do I remember?
See, you are kind of guy that preserve things related to family, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I try to. I don't know if I always succeed, but I try.
Family is important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is important. I think that, I don't have kids, but for Antonia and Mariella and for Ben and JJ and for my cousins who have their own kids, to know, kind of to hear those stories. Because I think what happens is you don't think about it until the people you want to learn about are gone.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, I wish I'd had this conversation or that conversation, or I wish I could remember that story.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, Uncle Bob and I went down to Washington in December.
I remember that. I appreciate it very much.
To see Mom, and we spent a couple of days, and we had 3 or 4 hours on the train each way, and we talked about your time in Milan, and we talked about Geneva, and we talked about Grandma Courtney and Grandpa Courtney, and kind of the family in St. Paul, and moving to D.C., and then kind of everything that happened there, and spending and you and Uncle John at Fordham, and going in the military and all those things. So those stories are invaluable, and in some ways, my mom can't share those stories anymore because she doesn't have after her stroke, she doesn't have the language to share those stories. So, she remembers it, and you tell her those stories, and she's very happy, and she knows it. But unfortunately, she can't articulate those stories to you. So, hearing them from Uncle Bob and from Aunt Isabel, and and Uncle Tom and Aunt Mary is means a lot. It's very important.
I think it's a mixture about roots and who are you? Who are people that you belong?
Yeah. You're putting me on the spot, Antonio, because I wasn't ready for. I didn't know you would turn the camera on and start recording. Yeah, I think that we have a lot of pride in our family. I think Grandpa Courtney did a lot of wonderful things in his life. I know my mom had talked often about her love for her mom and dad, and so having a better understanding of who they were and where they came from helps me as I move through my life understand not only who I am and where I come from, but also what's important. I think that's really a crucial part of this. The stories are informative and the stories help you understand where you come from and in some way who you are, but I think they also help you figure out what's important in life.
It's not to be proud, but it is to be proud.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm very lucky to be proud of my family and what they've accomplished and who they are and their kids and grandkids and it's lovely to be able to have those experiences and then to kind of look back and see, okay, these are the stories and this is where they came from and this is what was important to them. So, all right.
That's my Matthew Kilcoy.
Okay.
Vamos lá. Testando. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Pode começar. My name is.
My name is Robert Michael Courtney. I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota on October 11th, 1931. My mother was Crescent Michael and my father was John Courtney.
And John Courtney they married where?
They were married in St. Paul in 1929.
He's already a lawyer or not?
Huh? Oh, no. He was a lawyer for the United States government, and he traveled all over the United States taking care of lawsuits against the federal government.
And the family of your mom is from?
The family of my mom is from St. Paul. They immigrated from Germany, Prussia more specifically. They've been there for probably 2 generations when my mother was born.
How brothers and sisters they are?
She was one of 5, all of whom live still in Minnesota, and they're still alive.
And do you met these people?
Oh yes. When we lived in Minnesota, we got together on a regular basis, mostly with my aunt, Florence, who was my mother's sister. She was closer to her in age, and we lived a few hundred meters where she lived. She ended up having 10 children, many of whom were the same age as we were, and we were 5 children. So we spent lots of time at their house, particularly since her house was near the school. So it was very easy for us to, instead of going home, which was a few blocks away, we could go to my aunt's house, and she had 10 children, so 5 more didn't make a lot of difference. because GE was building a nuclear power station for one of the Italian electrical companies. So he quit. So that left an opening in Rome. So my boss decided, one, he couldn't send a married man because he'd be away for Christmas. So we selected a guy from South America, as well as myself, to go over and find out what the real story was as far as the project was concerned. So there I was in Rome, all by myself, at the Hilton Hotel. I also managed to convince the owner to let me use the swimming pool. So I had all the facilities of the Hilton Hotel with none of the cost. They were filming, I believe it was Ben-Hur. And Charlton Heston, the actor, came to Rome, and he stayed initially at the Hilton Hotel until he found his own apartment. And he asked the girl who was running part of the facilities there about someone for playing tennis. And she indicated to him that I played tennis. After Italy, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, but they had opened up a center for controlling GE's investments in Europe, in Geneva. They had one for the south and one for the north, and they set up offices in Geneva. I went home. My father had died while I was in Rome, as a matter of fact. But my mother never really accepted his death, so she was very anxious all the time. And he had Protestant nuns who spoke German from the German part of Switzerland, who were the nurses in his facility. So my mother is in this facility, and she discovers that these nurses speak German. So she began conversing with them in German, which she had learned as a child, although I never heard her speak German. She never spoke to me in German, but she was having long conversations with these nuns who were very delighted to find somebody who could speak German to them, rather because they couldn't speak anything else except French. Well, Switzerland is a lovely place to live. You must learn to live by their rules. And they have rules for everything. After Geneva, Geneva was a pass-through job. I wasn't going to stay there for a long time. I was offered a position in Milan. So I went to Milan, stayed in Milan for a few years, and the gentleman who was my boss in New York, who sent me originally to Rome, knew that there was an opening in South America, and he wanted me to take it. The man in Brazil. Well, yeah. I wasn't the finance director, I was the treasurer. And at that time, the company had some significant investments, which I had to manage. Oh yeah. After a while, we had to have a party because we're getting married. And we had one or two in Rio. And then we went to the States, we had another one.
In Washington.
In Washington, yes.
All the family.
That's the only way you could get all the family together. It was about 9 months to the day. We didn't waste a lot of time.
It was Bell.
Yeah.
And where are you living specifically? Apartment, or what part of the city?
No, we're living in an apartment in Geneva.
No, that's, you already up, where in Rio.
Okay.
Where I live and Bell was born.
Okay. We were living in Leblon. If I remember correctly, Rua General Ortiz, number 93. At that time when I went to Rio, finding reasonable apartments, because all the prices were horrible. So I finally found this apartment in a house where the family, the daughter of the family lived on the second floor, the parents lived on the top floor, and there's another daughter lived across the street. So it was a family compound where you could also park your car inside their area, which is very convenient because parking a car in the street in Brazil is somewhat hazardous.